Well, you first showed up on the Fugees album?
Yeah, it was a record on the Ooh La La remix actually.
Right.
They called Mr. Martin, tell him to build a coffin. So that was around the time when I was working super heavy with the Fugees. I was part of the Refugee Camp. Me, Wanda, Spider, obviously, you know, Praz, Clef, and Lauren, and it was just like a bunch of foreigners. Like we were all literally refugees around that time. And we was all based and fully, you know, like focused on music to an extent. I was always the one that had 1 foot in, 1 foot out. But the rest of them all went in heavy. But it was the craziest thing because as I was locked up, I was watching the Fugees just blowing up. Like, that'd be your biggest wake up call. When you see the people that you coming up with, you watching them on TV, like getting it, and you stuck in the cell.
Yeah, and they really blew up.
And the
score, I mean, the first album didn't do that great. And I had interviewed, you know, Wyclef and Praz, and we talked about this in depth. That first album didn't sell nothing.
Right.
But that second album with the score went like diamond.
Man, like diamond.
Yeah.
Like, they actually, man, I think their music is what opened the door for even my records to come in a certain kind of way. You know what I mean? Because it was all from the same DNA. Because me and Clef was always in competition. Like always. But it was great, healthy competition though. We'll look and we just know, okay, whatever you do, nigga, I'm coming right behind you. But it was always I think that's what fueled us, you know, to be who we are today. Like even to today, like when we did that big ass concert in Haiti, it was like we was literally outdoing each other on stage. I do 1 backflip, he do 2. Then I do 3, he do 1 with no hands. Then I jump on the fucking tree and started swinging on that. He jump on the pole. Yeah. So, but it was like, it's like you would have thought that me and Clef was born from the same mother and father, the way we move. Like we're literally like brothers, you know, but he was always like more of a bigger brother kind of thing for me.
Okay, and at what point did you actually start doing music?
Music was always in my blood because my dad was always a musician. You know, every time he went from one college to the next, he was teaching music. All the way from SIU, you know, to Clark Atlanta, you know, University of Miami. That was always what he was doing. But he was more of a jazz musician and percussionist, you know. So ultimately the music was always in my blood. And whenever I was going through something, music would be the only thing that I actually could relate to talk, because I never really talk to anybody about what I was dealing with. Because at that time, what I was dealing with wasn't quite legal enough to talk to just anybody about it. So I kind of kept a lot of information within myself, but I had to vent somehow. So music was the way I vented. So even with these little recording studios that I had, I would kind of go in when nobody was like kind of booked out and just kind of, it was almost like a diary to an extent, but through music. I would just make it quietly and just put it away in DATs and then play it in my car, wherever the case may be.
And were you always singing or did you start out rapping?
I started off doing rap, reggae. Nigga, I was doing everything. It wasn't nothing I wasn't doing.
Right, because you talk about Wyclef and them and
his. Yeah, around that time it was all
you don't really know
West
what he's
Indian.
Gonna do.
It was more West
genre
Indian.
bending, yeah.
Yeah, at the time of the Fugees, around that time I was doing more West Indian stuff. I was doing dub plates, you know, that's where I was into that then.
Yeah.
The rap really ain't go really hard until I moved to Atlanta.
Okay, and then you end up linking up with Devyne Stephens.
Right.
And he was the one that brought you to SRC.
Right.
My old home.
Right, right.
So you end up getting signed to SRC, which was formerly Loud Records.
Yep.
And I remember hearing the story from around the office. You know, this was not the Akon, the superstar Akon that everyone got to know later on.
Right.
You know, rough around the edges, the style wasn't really developed.
Right.
And when you did Locked Up, they said you were on promo tour for 1.5 years before that record started to pick up.
Pop.
That just goes to show
a whole year and a half.
Steve Rifkin's visionary ability to put someone on the road for 1.5 years on promo tour, which means you make no money. That means the label is spending thousands upon thousands
but see,
every week.
This the thing, like Steve, the reason why I respect him and love him so much today is because he fought for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Steve was one of those dudes, he kept it all the way 100 when he came and saw me in Atlanta. He said, listen, I don't really have that much money, but I'm gonna do everything in my power to help you get to where you're trying to go. He said, I know you're getting offers, because at that time we had like 4 or 5 different offers. He said, listen, I believe in you. He said, if you invest in anything else, invest in the one that believes in you, because he's gonna give his all to make sure you get there. And I believed him when he said it. So we literally, me and Devyne spoke about it, and we turned all them other deals down and went with Steve. And our advance was only $12,000.
$12,000.
12 grand. That was it.
Which you got to split with Devyne?
But me and Devyne split that half.
So you got 6 grand minus taxes?
After taxes. And the bills that was already probably piled up.
You're already in the red.
Right. It was just an agreement.